My guest today is Dr. Sarah Collins. Dr. Collins currently serves as the pre-K through third grade Director of Academic Equity and Excellence in the Kyrene School District in Tempe, Arizona. Dr. Collins earned her doctorate in K through 12 educational leadership in 2020. She was in school leadership for 12 years, 8 years as a principal. She has a passion for educator support, equitable access for learners, and promoting a diverse workforce in public education. Some of you who are listening are corporate professionals wanting to get into teaching, and some of you on here are teachers wanting to transition into corporations. Either way, this episode is for you because Dr. Collins shares deep knowledge about her time with education and her aspirations for where education in America should head to. She's inspiring as she talks about her deep passion, and her can do attitude is extremely infectious. You're in for a treat, my friends. Hello, I'm your host, Dorothy Mashburn, and welcome to Salary Negotiations Made Simple. Here I show you how negotiating does not have to be overwhelming. I break the entire process of negotiating into easy-to-learn steps that you can use in any salary negotiation situation, whether you're starting a new job or preparing to ask for a raise. Expect to receive practical, actionable strategies that are based on real-life experiences. I'll be sharing tips that have been proven to work, where professionals like you have netted anywhere from $10,000 to $75,000 more in compensation. It's payment for the skills you already bring, so you need to know how to ask for payment for that value. Are you ready to learn how to boost your earnings? Let's dive in. Hi, Dr. Collins. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, Dorothy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to have you in the studio.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
May I ask you, just like we do every other podcast guest, do a quick introduction about yourself and a little bit about what you want to, something quirky about you that you want the audience to know?
I can do that. Okay, so yes, I am Sarah Collins, and I am a proud Arizona Phoenix native. I am currently working in the school district in the valley that I was a student at. I'm really proud of that I was a student here and now am working at the district office in the school district that I grew up in. Would you like to hear about my education
What do you
and
do
professional
today?
experiences? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I'll start by just telling you some of the fun things about my family because that's important to me. But I am married to Phil Collins. Yes, that's his name. And he is not the singer. He is the recovering former teacher and now works for a construction company. And we have two boys, Brody, who's 18, and Tony, who's 22, and they both live with us, but they are finding their way in this world and trying to find out what they love or what they love for right now.
Yes.
To do. We are a dog obsessed family. So we have 4 pups at our house and we live near South Mountain. So we love the views and being outdoors, especially now with this beautiful weather.
Yeah.
And going back to, I started off talking about being a student who grew up in the district I work in, but currently I am working in a school district in the Phoenix Valley, and I'm new to my role this year. I started a position in this school year as a director of preschool through third grade curriculum. I work in the Academic Equity and Excellence Department, which is the former Teaching and Learning Department for our school district. Prior to that, I was a elementary school principal, which is how we met.
Yes.
I did that for 8 years, but it was 2 school districts and 3 different schools. So that experience was phenomenal because I was able to be in several different communities and different types of schools and being a pre-pandemic principal, a pandemic principal, and a post-pandemic principal. So I certainly have some stories there to share.
Yeah, and we want to hear
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Prior
today.
to prior to that, I was a dean of students for 4 years at in the district that I'm currently in. And then before that, I was a teacher and I taught for 12 years. And I think we're going to talk about why I went into leadership. But
Yes.
that teaching experience for those 12 years at one school, which is the school that I eventually ended up being the principal at, which I think is a really cool story. Being there for 12 years, and then I've been in leadership for, this is year 13, so almost half teaching, half school leadership.
Yeah.
And that brings us up to today. But I'm trying to think of something quirky to share with you. I think having 4 dogs is pretty quirky, but I think that maybe just something, let's come back to that one because
Okay.
knowing me, I'll think of something as we're talking and then I'll say, hey, I have the quirky thing.
Yeah,
That sound
perfect.
okay?
That
Okay.
sounds great. So tell us, Sarah, a little bit about, may I call you Sarah? I don't know. I always
Yeah,
call
oh,
you Dr.
please.
Collins, but
You always have, but I really would love for you to call me Sarah.
Sarah, okay.
Mm,
So Sarah, tell us about your leadership journey. What did you learn either as a teacher or as a student that
sure.
got you to saying, yes, I want a leadership position, and then other people recognizing the leader in you?
Okay, sure. So when I went into education, it was a legacy decision because my grandma on my dad's side was a teacher, and all my aunts and uncles, and my cousin that I looked up to that was 3 years older than me was a teacher. My mom was a teacher, and it just seemed that's what we do as we go into teaching. Looking back on it, none of those people ever went into school leadership. So that's where I stand out a little bit with my family, but we had that love of learning and education, and then had a strong belief in public education specifically and the importance of it on community and society. And that really was a big motivating factor. And maybe a little bit of, hey, this is just what women in our family do.
Yeah.
I'll say that we've become teachers. Not in a bad way, but looking back, it's what we did. So I did go to ASU, and at the time I was in the bilingual education program and at ASU, and really thought that I was going to teach maybe in Phoenix in a school, like actually in Phoenix, or an underprivileged school, or someplace that had a population, that possibly a lower socioeconomic population of students, and not be in the district I grew up in, and not be in the district where my mom was a teacher. And just circumstances, I ended up student teaching in the district, and I'm really happy that I ended up in the place that I did. But I started off with a different kind of path of the students I wanted to serve. But then I found out that no matter where you are, there are people that you can impact and influence, and people who are students and children in families who are in need, no matter where you are,
Yeah.
and that your impact and influence can be greatly felt in a variety of places.
Yeah.
I taught first grade. I realized that was not for me. Went to third grade the next year. I had an amazing principal. I have a story about that, but I had an amazing principal who hired me. And now I look back on it and think, I'm 21 years old because I graduated a little bit early, and I really did not know what I was doing. And teaching I just think it's just
Yeah.
the hardest thing. It really is
Yeah.
a really difficult profession. There's a lot of joy you get from it, and that's why I think people do it, because of what you get out of it, but it is very challenging. She was like, I said I was going to leave teaching. She said, no, you're not. We're going to try a different grade level. And we tried a different grade level, and I fell in love with third grade. So I did third grade and fourth grade, and then went to second grade at the very end. And I got into being a teacher leader over the years. So
Uh,
I would sign up for any district training or committee or a school committee. I really wanted to be involved. I did have this passion for learning. I think that's why I just kept going to school. I realized coming into my new position at the district office that I've never not gone to a school for work. I've gone to a school for work for since I was 21 years old. And before that, I just went to school every day because I was a student. So to not go to a school building for work for the first time in my life was quite
yeah.
unique. But I started to really find my passion was in supporting teachers. And so I was a building representative for our association. We don't have unions in Arizona, but we have educational associations, and our association, I was a member and I was an advocate, and I started going to different things with the Arizona Education Association. And then I was involved in the National Education Association. And I realized that I really loved supporting adults and supporting teachers. I really want to support teachers, and I could get in there and I could do that. I could do that on top of supporting families and kids, and whatever the impact I had on the adults in the building would trickle down to the children. And I still really believe that. I had already got my master's degree, but it wasn't in leadership. I took a position as we called them student advisors at the time, or deans of students.
Mm-hmm.
And we were teachers on special assignment. And it was virtually an assistant principal role, but I was able to get my second master's in educational leadership at the time, and then loved being in that role. And did that for 4 years. And then my principal at the time said I was ready to I really wanted to become a principal. So my principal at the time said to me, all right, there's really not going to be any jobs coming up in our district, but you can wait if you want to be in our district. Or you have to ask yourself, Sarah, do you want to be a principal, or do you want to be a principal in our district? And she said,
Yeah.
either answer is fine, but you have to decide. And I said, I want to be a principal. And she said, all right, then let's start interviewing other places. So the first time in my life, I looked outside of the school district that I grew up in, that my mom
Yeah.
was a teacher in, and I ended up getting a position in another big district in our valley. I was a principal there for 3 years. And then I was really fortunate to come back to my current district, kind of
Yeah.
come home after I got that experience and come back as a principal. So I was a principal for 5 more years in my current district, and then had the opportunity to move up into this director district position this school year. And I think you asked me about what the why, and I shared a little
Yeah.
bit about that, but
Yeah.
really every move I've made, there's a it's been there's been several factors, but some personal,
Mm.
of just goal setting and wanting to having certain goals set for myself in my career. But then the most important factor for me has always been that I'm a strong advocate for public education, and I know the challenges that teachers face. And if I can be someone who removes barriers and who is there to support them, then that's going to trickle down to the kids that they're in front of every single day.
Mm.
So if they have a leader at the school who believes in them, trusts them, supports them, removes barriers, then their job hopefully will be a little easier, more manageable, and they'll have that support, and then the kids will feel it. And my
Yeah.
decision to come up to the district level was just that next level, that one, personally wanting to, my ambitions of just having a greater impact and influence in public
Mm-hmm.
education, but then also can my experiences, my passions, my knowledge, my leadership have a greater impact
Yeah. Yeah.
at the district level? If you have a greater impact as a principal on multiple classrooms, then imagine if I could have a greater impact on multiple schools at
Yeah.
the district level.
Yeah. The exponential factor of it.
That's right.
Yeah. So, what was the secret to? There's one thing about having an ambition and wanting certain goals, and then letting other people know that's what you want to do, and then letting other people believe that you're capable of that next step. What was your secret?
I'm not sure it's a secret, but I personally have always put it out there. That's just, I mean, it's the simplest way to put it. I put it out
Yeah.
there and I put myself out there.
Hmm.
So people that work with me and work around me and my family, they know what my goals are. It's not a
Yeah.
secret.
Yeah.
So I had this goal that I wanted to be a principal but by the time I was 40.
Yeah.
I told my family and I told my colleagues and I told my principal at the time
Right.
that I was working with. And so I think that's why she said to me, all right, so if you want to be a principal, or do you want to be a principal in our district? Because you need to decide, right?
Yeah.
And so I always put it out there. I had told my superintendent, um, a couple of, maybe even 3 years back, that what my ambitions and goals were.
Yeah.
So no one's going to be able to guess what you want to do in your life. They may try to guess, but they
Right.
probably won't guess
They will get it
correctly.
wrong. Yeah.
They'll get it wrong. And people, you can't assume that people are going to know what your desires are or know what your hopes are. And so that's one thing that I have always done, is that I don't know, I know people have vision boards and they manifest things, and I think that's wonderful, but I feel like I've manifested things in the term in terms of being very vocal
Yeah. Yeah.
about where I see myself and what my hopes and dreams are. I think the other question you had with that was, there was this like how
How
I
how do
put it
people
out
believe
there.
you? Yeah, how
Right.
do
How do
people
people
believe you?
believe me? You know how
Yeah,
I think people believe you is that you are doing what you say you're going to do. And then every day you are bringing your best. And when you make mistakes or you're not sure that of something, being really honest and open and transparent with that with people, I think makes them trust you.
yeah,
They put more of their trust, their hope into you because they're like, she does what she says she's going to do.
yeah,
She delivers. If Sarah doesn't know something, we know she's going to ask
right.
about it and she's going to do it. She's going to do her best to do it correctly. Or I always say, and we say it in our family, and I've even started some people here saying,
Yeah.
when you know better, you do better. And so no matter what, if I did something as a principal where the parents were really unhappy or they went to the district office or something happened and we sat down, I always thought and then said to them, especially if it was something that a teacher or that I maybe had a misstep or that we
Hmm.
didn't quite understand the full picture.
Hmm.
Now that we know better, we're going to do better for you and for your child. And I
Yeah,
think that just being able to say that and not be closed into always having the right answer or my way is always the right way, being open or being the person who's vulnerable, open to feedback and owning your
yeah,
mistakes and that
right.
other people know that about you, put more trust in you. And I also would say that actually doing the things that you say
Hmm.
you're going to do, like I knew I wanted to be a principal, so I left my comfort zone and I went someplace I did not know with I knew nobody. And so they're like, "Ooh, if she really wants something, she is going to go after it." And so then they start to believe that you aren't just saying, it's not a wish. I
Yeah,
wish I could be a principal. It's I'm going to be a principal by the
right.
time I'm 40. And then I was 38 and got my principalship and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I've noticed, obviously, I've had the privilege to see you in action, Sarah, and I've noticed that the people you hire or the people who work for you are very dedicated and they look, at least to the outsider, very empowered. So, what are you saying or doing behind the scenes to have that sort of leadership style?
Thank you for that. And I came into a situation coming into this school, which the little fun thing, and I'm not sure if I shared it, was that I was the teacher at this school
Okay.
that I became the principal at during the
Uh-huh.
pandemic. And that came with a staff of people. And
Hmm.
then it came with, and then you have then there's also turnover or
Hmm.
support staff individuals who leave or teachers who leave for a variety of reasons. And then you start being able to hire,
Yes.
right? The people to be on your bus or the ones that are going to join you on on this team. And I've always felt that I want people to be wherever they need to be. Right. So if we had a special model at our school and the people who'd been there for a while, if they were, this is not for me, I did everything I could to get them where they needed to be in our district. So, okay, you know what? I'm not going to shame you, look down on you, think poorly of you. The reason why we have so many different models and types of schooling and teaching
Yeah.
are that human beings and children and families and grown-ups all have differences.
Hmm.
So first thing is helping people get to where they want to be or think they want to be. And then when you're hiring people, I have a unique set of interview questions that I want it to be a conversation. Of course, we have to follow certain procedures and the posting, you always have to ask the same questions of all the candidates. But over time, I've gotten to a place where I want to get to know who you are as a team player, as a fellow like human interacting with me, because I can teach you how to teach.
Hmm.
I can teach you that, but I cannot teach you how to be a good person. It's going to be really hard for me to teach you or help you unlearn bad habits. Or if you don't have trust and rapport with others, it's going to be really hard to teach that.
Right.
So along with some technical questions, I ask questions like I'll share a quote. For example, I had one for years that Rita Pearson, and it was, children can't learn from adults or people they don't trust. I think that was
Hmm.
just the gist of it. Just one
Hmm.
moment. Excuse me. And I would say to the candidate, do you agree or disagree with this quote? And think about how much you're going to uncover about a person from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that type of thing when I'm looking for individuals, and I've had the people say, oh, that's not true. they need to respect me because I'm the teacher, and
Ah,
and they're
yeah,
this is later on after we go through all of our candidates, and that person is not the person for us.
yeah,
And the person who were to come in and say, you know, align with the
yes,
values of the
right,
leadership team and of our school,
right,
such as, of course, a child can't learn from someone that they don't trust or respect, because
yeah,
then, okay, along with your technical answers that make you a good fit, this is something that we can see that you are like-minded in in how we treat children,
mm-hmm,
right? In our
yeah,
teaching and learning philosophy. So I would say that just having an interview is quick, right? A
mm-hmm,
teaching interview.
mm-hmm,
There, in the grand scheme of things, you hire this person to be in your organization for possibly years and years of their career,
yeah,
and you have this short amount of time with them. So it's really about asking questions that get to their core beliefs, I would say,
yeah,
and finding alignment. And sometimes I've done it really well. And as the case at my school, I think that, where we met, and then sometimes I haven't done it as well. And
mm,
that's just, I think, the nature of our business, and in terms of hiring people
yeah, yeah.
and having that limited understanding until you really get to working with people.
Yeah, yeah. It is absolutely from an outside perspective, do you do a very good job. It's probably the misses are probably few and far between. It's absolutely a joy to see your leadership.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Quite switching gears a little bit. Some of my audience members are transitioning teachers.
Right.
So, could you, from the roles that you've had as a teacher, as a leader of teachers, and your current role in curriculum, tell us what skills do teachers earn in the field in a really hard knock sense that can be transitioned into other industries, other functions? What are your thoughts on that?
So, first and foremost, any skill that a teacher learns, gains from teaching, I 100% believe is transferable into other industries. Not saying that I think that teachers should do that, because
Yeah.
because I'm still such a strong public school
Yes.
advocate that
Yes.
I want the best of the best to stay in public education. However, if individuals have made the decision to leave there's a variety of reasons why people
Mhm.
choose to leave all careers. If they choose to leave education, oftentimes they come back. But if they do, there is no doubt in my mind that you walk into an interview and you say, I was a teacher, that
Yeah.
people stop and pay attention, because first of all, everyone has experience with a teacher because everyone went to school.
Right.
So people have core memories of amazing humans who touch their lives. So you're in an interview with somebody, and more than likely the person that's interviewing or the group of people are going to start be like, oh, I remember Mrs. So and Mr. So and Miss So and so, because it elicits these memories of being a child and being in school and how
Mm.
teachers were there for them. So right away, I feel like
Ah,
you have this edge, right? If you go
right.
in and say, I'm a former sales, there may be people in your interview who don't have that experience, but everyone's
Hmm.
had an experience with a teacher, right? Everyone.
Right.
So right there, you got
Right.
a leg up. Secondly, to be a teacher, you have to go to college and get a degree. So you have this broad, um, you went and got your credits from not just education, right? Your
Yeah.
core curriculum. So people look at that as someone, I think, who comes with this level of education, dedication, and knowledge. The
Yes.
skill set, the skill set is just there's research out there that says that teachers make more decisions in a day than a brain surgeon during surgery.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the thinking on your feet, the decision making, the ability to plan
Hmm.
and to differentiate, to adjust, that monitoring and adjusting piece
Yeah.
for what something doesn't go wrong, doesn't go right, and then you need to correct it. These are skills that could translate into so many industries and
Yeah.
professions.
Yeah.
The people and relationship piece, because
Yes.
not only are teachers, depending on what grade level they're at, you might be with littles that are 3 years old in preschool. You might be a high school teacher that's working with brand new, almost they're adults.
Yeah.
So and then their families and then colleagues. Teaching is very much, even though you do it in isolation during the day in your own room, it's very much a teaming profession.
Mm.
So if somebody wants to bring someone on board in their company who's going to know how to plan as a team,
Yeah.
work as a team, compromise their desires for someone else, it's a teacher. That's what
Yes.
we do all the time. And, teachers go above and beyond
Yeah.
with very little, oftentimes compensation and oftentimes respect.
Thanks. Yeah,
Yes.
gratitude.
So they have such perseverance to
Yes.
overcome those things
Yes.
that these skills are so translatable into other industries. And I think that teachers need to really lean into that. If they've chosen to leave the profession,
Yeah.
I've heard people say, I'm just a teacher, or I've just
Yes.
been a teacher, or I've only been a
Yes.
teacher. And I say, you go in there as I I am perfect for this job because I am a teacher. I was an educator. I did not. I'm just. I think we should take one little piece of advice right now is take the just out of your vocabulary when you walk into these interviews for jobs and be
Yeah.
proud. That's the experience that you bring to possibly your next career.
That is so powerful. That is, I absolutely hear people saying the just, and it's a uphill battle to help people understand, especially help teachers understand that all the skills they have are not something we can teach easily in corporate America or wherever else that they are going to. Those are skills that they have learned the hard way and are masters of it. And people will pay. This is the podcast of salary negotiations, and
Yes,
people will pay for that. Like they don't want to pay you a teacher salary because that's what you just did, but all the skills you're bringing, that is worth
absolutely.
a lot of gold here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that is very well said. Thank you, Sarah. What one of the things that you said that I wanted to come back to was you said that you always knew to put yourself out there or put your desires, like what you want to do ambition wise. What is there an experience or story in your personal or professional life that prepared you for that or gave you the confidence for that? And if it's a role model that helped you, that's fine too. So, whatever comes to mind on that.
Sure. So I people do not believe me when I tell them that I was a very shy, introverted child. I'm an only child,
Oh,
and I was really just I grew up around adults and some cousins, but they didn't always live near me. And I loved to read. I loved to read. Like my at parent pickup, I'd have my face in a book, and my dad would have to like hold up the parent pickup line and be honking because I like never looked up from these books, right? So I now that when people see me and they see that I do put myself out there and I will take a risk and I'll be goofy or silly um or speak up, they never ever believe that I was so self-conscious and shy as a child. And that really did go through even the beginning of my teaching career. I have thought about this question, Dorothy, because I wanted to know, like, when did it change? When did
yeah.
I go from the cousin who wouldn't do the dance at the family dance at the family reunion because I was like, no, I'm too shy and too embarrassed, to like the person who's, I'll be the first one out there. How did that
Yeah.
happen? And I think it was a combination of things, but and I don't want to get sad, but the biggest thing that happened is I lost my mom to cancer when I was 30. And
Wow.
she was truly my biggest cheerleader, my one of like my best friend. My boys were little when she passed, and she was like, there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't call her about something for them, about something for me.
Yeah.
And my dad was also, I'll talk a bit about my dad too, because
Mhm.
he's really amazing. He's a big influence on my life as well. But I think that because now it's been 17 years since she passed. And I think that after my grieving and some therapy, which I'm never
Mhm.
ashamed to say,
Yeah.
that I had to rely on myself more.
Mhm.
Like I had to say that I am good enough, I'm strong enough, she's not there to run to for every question you have about everything in your life
Yeah.
and for your kids. You're going to have to make some big grown up decisions. No,
Mhm.
yes, my dad was there, but I had to. And then I was like, I always thought that she would be there
Mhm.
and things would just be steady and like they
Mhm.
always are. And as soon as it disrupted that thought process of, wow, I really, I really could go out there and shake things up and I could do
Yeah.
things differently, because you never, ever know if life is just going to be steady until the very end, or if you're going to get a major curveball thrown in.
Yeah.
And you might as well go out there and do it big and do big things. That's how I took it. I want
Yeah.
to go out there and do really big things. And I guess a little piece of me too is that when I've had great accomplishments, I have this sense of like pride, like she's
Hmm.
proud and look what I did. And I wish you
Right.
were here to see it, but I am still thriving and surviving, even though my rock at the time is gone. Like I didn't
Hmm.
just crumble and say this and go inside and just, I picked myself up. Like I said, after some
Yeah.
years of therapy and trauma
Yeah.
and grief, and with my dad's support as well, I just decided I was going to make her as proud as I possibly could, even though I know she'd be proud of whatever I did.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to be an example of her greatness for my boys. And I know I'm all over the place, but it makes so much sense to me, which I think is the most
Yeah,
important thing.
it
But
does.
it's
It
just that
does.
I may have done this anyway, even if
Yeah.
she was here with us. It may have turned out just this way, but that in my mind, that was a shift in thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I attribute it to that. I attribute
Yeah.
it to a wake up call in life.
Mm.
But my dad has been a huge role model for me. Both of my parents, really, they were just the hardest working people. He was a police officer, she was a teacher. They didn't have like we did really well as a family in terms of the rest of the world, but
Yeah.
I never didn't want for much, but I always felt taken care of and all my needs were met. But then looking back, I was like, that's because my dad worked off duty jobs every holiday. And that's why we
Hmm.
did Christmas at Christmas Eve, because he was going to work every Christmas to make the triple overtime. And my parents cleaned office buildings all throughout the area we lived, and they cleaned people's houses. And I would go with them to the doctor's office they cleaned, and I would read Highlights magazine. And while they were cleaning doctor's offices at night, just because, and so that was like the hard work piece. Like you
Yeah.
do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You do whatever it takes to be there, to have your needs met, your family's needs met, to contribute, right,
Yeah.
to society. And we I'm just thankful we were able to. I know
Yeah.
there's some families who can't, and
Right.
they were able to do that.
Hmm.
Just that was another thing that I look back on what they did, and especially my dad, as a great influence when things get tough, and just that we do whatever it takes.
Yeah. It sounds like they created a foundation of service, hard work, a strong responsibility in you. And sadly, even though you lost your mom, like you picked that up and then bounced back from that really hard setback.
Yeah, I would say that they were both, that's their professions were to serve.
Yes.
They both had professions of service,
Hmm.
of protection,
Yeah.
and and it we yeah, I would say that that is something that through their hard work and just the way that they interacted in their professions and in our personal lives with others,
Hmm.
that they did, that you're right, they did instill that service in me. So
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure it's a really a tough story to share. So thank you for that.
absolutely, well, thank you.
Yeah.
When I speak of her, I truly believe that stories that carry on, and
Yeah.
her being a part of me,
Yeah.
that's the way she lives on, is
Yes.
that through the stories that we share of
Yeah.
our people who've passed.
Yeah. Yeah. One piece of advice that you have for our listeners on primarily the things we work on the podcast is work on confidence and believing in your worth. So, along those lines, could you give us a tip that helps you stay confident and believe that you are worthy?
Absolutely. So I can, yes, and it's built over time, right?
Yeah.
You're not just going to wake up one day and be like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm worthy. Work on yourself. You have to commit to putting in the work, especially
Yes.
if you're somebody who doesn't have as strong of a sense of self. You can get there. It just
Yeah.
takes more work. I would say that I have a lot of advice, but I'm going to say that, so even though there's uniqueness in every single human being on this planet, right? There is. Every
Yeah.
single human being is unique. There's no reason if other people can do something, why you cannot. No, of course,
Mm.
there's physical limitations and there may be geographic limitations, but in terms of a career move or something, if you're qualified for it, if you have the skill set for it, if you have the credentials for it, then there, in my mind, there's no reason if any other person with the same skill set, criteria, degrees, if they're able to accomplish it, there's no reason why another person who wants it would not be able to.
Yeah.
Right? With everything else, with a level playing field.
Mm-hmm.
But that means, I'll say it again, putting yourself out there, because no one's going to, it's rare that people are just going to come up and say,
Yes.
we want you to do this and come on board. Oftentimes you have to fight or pursue things.
Mm.
So you put yourself out there. You realize that if any other human being that has this thing you desire has, you can work towards that too. I've even looked towards, what do they do? You know,
Yeah.
what do they, what do they do? What did they, even what books are they reading? What committees are they involved in? Even down to talking to people
Yeah.
about that you in the positions that you desire. Networking. We call it networking, right?
Yeah.
Networking.
Networking. Yes.
Talk to people in positions that you want. Okay,
Right.
that's called networking. Don't let societal expectations limit you in any way. And that's, I think we hear that a lot, but to truly say to yourself that society may expect me to do X, Y, Z, stay home a certain amount of time after I have my children, or even in teaching, it's like you have to teach. Someone said to me, I definitely need to teach 10 years before I try to go into leadership. And I said, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, first of all, I know so many of our male counterparts who only teach for a few years and they go into leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they are
Mm-hmm.
successful at it. And there's no reason why you wouldn't be either. So don't
Yeah.
limit yourself. Like, I have to teach for 10 years before I can do X, Y, Z.
Yes.
Now, if there's a minimum expectation, and yes, it helps to have that experience. And this is not to be like against certain genders. This is
Yeah.
just because it's for
Yeah.
women. I would certainly,
Yeah.
I was in a cohort of aspiring female leaders past about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about how our male counterparts will apply for jobs with not even the minimum requirements
Yeah.
on the application. And often they get the jobs. We women limit themselves. And if they don't even have all of the desired
Yeah.
requirements, I can't apply. And men are like, I don't even have the minimum and I'm going to
Yeah.
apply.
I'm
So
gonna
to
apply,
be in
see
that,
what
yeah.
happens.
So
Yeah.
to exactly. So
Yeah.
to not limit yourself to certain expectations, to put yourself out there, to network with other people who are doing the work that you're doing, to I even have an interview. I even have interview advice. If I could just tell you real quickly, I
Yeah.
strongly
Please.
believe in intensive interview prep, in going so far as to every single answer that you are going to give when you go through and practice your
Mm-hmm.
questions, that you have to say them verbally.
Yes.
In a mirror is perfect, but you have to say them verbally, because you don't want the first time you've ever said a response to something to be in an interview.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
want to have your mouth, your body, your mind have the comfort that you actually said that thing before,
Yes.
that you
Yes.
believe it so much that you've said it. And people are always like, oh, yeah, I totally interview prep. And I was like, have you actually pretended like you are answering the question exactly how you would an interview? No, I just talk. No, you need to actually do it like you really would, so that you have said the words that you would
Yes.
say in an interview. And that may not be some earth-shattering advice, but there are a lot of people who don't
Wing
take
it,
that.
right? Wing it.
They wing it, or they're
Yeah.
prepared because they've looked over answers so many
Yeah.
times and they've read them. They've
Yes.
read them, they've read them, they've read them, they know, but then they haven't actually done that physical response.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
and so that's just something that as your listeners are thinking about going into interviews, that actual practice,
Yeah.
not like you're really doing it.
Yeah. 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 Do it
And
in
you
front of a
can really
mirror or record
visualize
it.
yourself. Yep, in front
Yeah.
of a mirror, record it, have
Yeah.
someone sit down and be the person interviewing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's great
Not,
advice.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, last question, and it's the hardest one of them all. So you have to tell me your favorite book or author, since you said you're a reader.
Okay.
And if you don't have one, you can, I guess we'll say two.
Okay. So I have the like stages, right? So I
Yes.
have stages of current favorite authors, current favorite books. Lately, because I did so much reading, I think when I was getting my doctorate, that was
Hmm.
technical and for school, and I used to love reading so much. I like now I don't want to read anything professional. I do.
Yes.
I have to for work, and I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I have been reading, I'm going to get this wrong. It's um Kent. I have to look it up. Do you mind if I look it up really
No,
fast
not
while
at
you look it
all.
up?
Please.
So it's William Kent Kruger. Have you heard of him?
Okay, I have not.
So he does a lot of like historical fiction, but it's so much based in like in what truly happened in history,
Oh
right?
my
Not so
gosh.
it's
Okay.
historical fiction, but just beautiful imagery of Midwest. And I'm from here, so
Uh-huh.
I haven't really experienced that too much. So just this beautiful imagery. And the book that I just read of his most recently was called The River We Remember.
Okay, I'm gonna write that
Okay.
down.
And
Yeah.
then if I can just tell you, I would highly recommend it, Dorothy.
Okay.
It's beautiful. It's
Okay.
beautiful, and you learn from it, but
Enjoy it.
yes, you also have this. You're reading a fiction book,
Yeah.
but it's historically based. And then my favorite book. I can never remember the author, but I know my favorite book. It's by John Boyne,
Hmm.
and you may know him because he wrote The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Oh yeah.
But that wasn't. But the book that he wrote called The Heart's Invisible Furies
Okay.
is the best book that I've ever read.
Wow, I haven't read it. I
Yeah,
gotta
I would
find it.
highly recommend it to you and to your listeners. The Heart's Invisible Furies
Okay.
is a very emotional, touching, beautiful book.
Thank you so much.
You're
Sarah,
so
thank you
welcome.
so much for your insights, your wisdom. I am so honored that you came, and we are very happy that you provided an hour of your time with us. So thank you so much.
I am so happy that I was a part of this. And I do want to tell you that if you want to share contact information with any of your listeners, people who have done that for me, given me
Yes.
business cards, who've said, reach out anytime. I'm the person that goes, hey, remember me? You said to reach out. And they're like, oh, yeah, no one ever does that. But I always tell
Yeah.
people they can. I said, I do. So please, if anyone would like to reach out and give them my email
Yep.
address, my phone number, I'm all about championing others.
Yes.
And I would be happy to help or answer questions or just be a thought partner.
Absolutely. We'll put all your contact in the show
Okay.
notes. Thank you, Sarah. Have a
Thank
great
you.
afternoon.
Yes. Have a wonderful weekend, Dorothy. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you're as inspired as I am after talking to Dr. Collins. If you're a teacher who's listening to our show today, remember, you're not just a teacher. You're a program manager. You're a leader. You're a communicator, and so much more. If you're aspiring to transition into corporate world after your stint as a teacher, please reach out. We can help. Thank you for listening. Bye for now. If you're ready to rise up and get paid for your worth, be sure to get the free salary negotiation training at dorothyMashburn.com/fight for your worth. This is the ultimate step-by-step guide in order to help you secure a promotion or break the glass ceiling. Again, it's at dorothyMashburn.com/fight for your worth. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.